My dad's new wife insisted I pay $1,200 monthly or get out. So I kicked her entitled children and my dad out of the mansion I actually own and never told them about. Please take a second to hit subscribe, and tell us where you're joining from. I'm always touched by how connected this community feels. I stood in the kitchen I'd known my whole life, staring at my father's new wife Simone like she'd grown a second head. I'm sorry, what did you just say? Simone flipped her blonde Brazilian blowout over her shoulder, those acrylic nails clicking against the marble counter. You heard me, Alia. You're 24 now. Time to contribute or find your own place. $1,200 a month starting next week. My dad Luke cleared his throat from behind his newspaper, not even looking up. The man who used to carry me on his shoulders, who promised he'd always protect me after Mama died, couldn't even meet my eyes. Dad. My voice cracked. Nothing. Simone's twins, Brittany and Brandon, smirked from the living room. Both 19, both insufferable, both living here rent-free while attending community college on my father's dime. It's only fair, Simone continued, examining her nails. You got your little degree, you work at that boutique. Time to be an adult, sweetie. That little degree was a master's in business from Howard University. That boutique was my own growing clothing line that I ran while pretending to work retail to keep the peace. But they didn't know that. They didn't know a lot of things. And if I can't pay? I asked, my heart hammering. Simone smiled, cold as January in Chicago. Then you'll need to make other arrangements. This is a family home and family contributes. You have until the 1st of next month. 3 weeks. I looked at my father one more time. He turned the page of his newspaper. That's when something inside me shifted. Fine. They wanted to play this game? They had no idea who they were messing with. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying Mama's last words to me in that hospital room 5 years ago. Baby girl, I left you something. Something your grandmother left me. Check the safe deposit box at First National. The keys in my jewelry box behind the blue velvet lining. I'd been so destroyed by grief, so focused on finishing college while Dad spiraled into depression, that I'd completely forgotten. Until he met Simone at some grief counseling group 6 months later. She moved in within 3 months, bringing her spoiled twins with her. At 2 a.m. I crept into my room and pulled out Mama's jewelry box. My hands trembled as I peeled back the velvet lining. There it was, a small brass key with a number engraved on it. The next morning I called in sick to my boutique job. Simone had already started redecorating the house, erasing every trace of my mother. The family photos were gone, replaced by modern abstract art. Mama's garden had been paved over for a pool. At First National Bank, the attendant led me to a private room. My heart pounded as I inserted the key and opened the box. Inside were documents, property deeds, bank statements, and a letter in Mama's handwriting. My dearest Alea, it began, if you're reading this, I'm gone. What I'm about to tell you will shock you, but you need to know the truth about the house you grew up in. My hands shook so badly I almost dropped the letter. The house. The beautiful 3-story Victorian mansion in Hyde Park. The house where I'd lived my entire life. It wasn't my father's house. It was mine. I read the letter 3 times before my brain could process it. Mama had inherited the mansion from her mother, my grandmother Dorothy, who'd been a successful real estate investor in the 50s and 60s when black women weren't supposed to own property, let alone acquire wealth. The house had been placed in a trust. Upon Mama's death, it transferred entirely to me with stipulations. The trust remained hidden until I turned 24 or until my father remarried, whichever came first. Mama had wanted to protect me. Your father is a good man, she wrote, but he's weak. He follows his heart over his head, and I worry about what might happen if he finds someone who wants to take advantage. This house, this security, it's yours. Dorothy fought too hard for our family's legacy to let it slip away. Tears streamed down my face as I read about the stocks, the investment accounts, the rental properties scattered across Chicago, all generating income that had been quietly accumulating in my name since I turned 18. My grandmother had built an empire and my mother had protected it. I was worth over $3 million. The bank manager, Mr. Gonzalez, confirmed everything. Your mother was very clear about her wishes, Miss Williams. She updated this trust 6 months before she passed. You have full access now that you're 24. I thought about Simone's ultimatum, about my dad's silence, about those smug twins lounging in MY living room, eating food bought with MY money. Because yes, the bank statements showed my father had been living off the house's equity line, which technically belonged to me. Mr. Gonzalez, I said slowly, I need a lawyer. The best real estate attorney you know. He smiled. I think I can help with that. I came home to find Simone hosting her book club in my living room. 8 women I'd never met were drinking wine, eating expensive cheese, laughing too loud. When I walked in, Simone barely glanced up. Oh, Alea, be a dear and grab more wine from the cellar? We're running low. I smiled sweetly. Actually, I just got back from running errands. I'm pretty tired. Simone's eyes narrowed. I said, get the wine. You still live here, don't you? Her book club friends shifted uncomfortably. One woman, older with kind eyes, looked at me with sympathy. For now, I said softly and went to my room. I could hear them talking. That's Luke's daughter from his first marriage, Simone explained. Sweet girl but a bit entitled. We're trying to teach her responsibility. Entitled, one woman said. Simone, she's his daughter. Oh please. She's 24 with a retail job, still living at home. We've asked her to contribute just $1,200 a month. That's nothing for rent in this neighborhood. She acts like we're torturing her. I pressed my ear to the door, recording everything on my phone. Honestly, Simone continued, Luke is too soft. The moment we can get her out, the better. I'm thinking of converting her room into my yoga studio. My mother's sewing room. Where Mama taught me to design clothes, where I'd sketched my first fashion collection. A yoga studio. I texted my lawyer, Janine Morrison. How long until we can proceed? Her response came immediately. All documents verified. Say when. I smiled. Not yet. Let them dig deeper. Simone announced we were having a family meeting over dinner that Friday. She'd made reservations at Maple and Ash, this overpriced steakhouse where entrees started at $60. My father loved it there and Simone knew it. We need to discuss Alea's situation, she said, cutting into her Wagyu beef. The first is in 2 weeks and we haven't seen any movement on her finding a new place. I sipped my water watching them. My father still wouldn't look at me. Brandon and Brittany were on their phones, barely paying attention. I've been looking, I lied smoothly. It's hard to find something affordable. Perhaps you need a second job, Simone suggested. Or roommates. You could move to a cheaper neighborhood. Rogers Park has some affordable options. Rogers Park. An hour commute from Hyde Park. From my business. From my home. Dad. I tried one more time. Don't you have anything to say? Luke finally looked up. God, he looked old. When had that happened? Simone's right, sweetie. It's time you stood on your own 2 feet. Your mother and I, we may have babied you too much. The mention of my mother made Simone's eye twitch. She hated when he brought up his first wife. Mama would never have kicked me out, I said quietly. Well, your mother isn't here, Simone snapped. And this is our house now. Our rules. Speaking of which, Luke and I have been talking. We're putting the house up for sale. My fork clattered to my plate. What? It's too big for us, my father said. We're thinking of downsizing, maybe getting a condo downtown. Something more manageable. My house. My inheritance. They were going to sell it. I needed air. I excused myself and walked outside past the valet around the corner. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold my phone. That's when I heard them. Brittany and Brandon had followed me out, but they were talking to each other, not realizing I was nearby. I can't believe she actually bought that crying act, Brittany laughed. Mom's good. Real good. Dad's so whipped, Brandon added. Once they sell the house and move downtown, Mom's gonna divorce him so fast. She's already got that prenup lawyer on speed dial. I froze behind a pillar. How much you think she'll get? Brittany asked. Mom figures half of everything. Maybe 2 million. That house is worth at least 4 mil plus whatever's in his retirement accounts. And that's when we convince her to move to Miami. I'm so sick of Chicago winters. They went back inside, leaving me standing there in the cold November air. Simone was running a long con. She'd targeted my grieving father, moved into our home, isolated him from me, and now she was positioning herself to take everything. Everything she thought was his. I called Janine. Tomorrow morning. I want them served tomorrow morning. All of them, she confirmed. Every single one. Alea, are you sure? Once we do this, there's no going back. I thought about my father choosing her over me. About Simone erasing my mother from her own home. About those twins laughing at my pain. I've never been more sure of anything in my life. I'll have the sheriff there at 8 a.m. That night I packed the things that mattered. Pictures of Mama. Her jewelry. My designs. Everything else could stay. I woke up at 6 a.m. to the sound of my phone buzzing. Text from Janine. On schedule. Sheriff's at Starbucks around the corner. Ready. I typed back. Ready. I got dressed carefully. A navy pantsuit Mama had helped me design before she got sick, her pearl earrings, my Howard class ring. Armor. At 7:45 I went downstairs. Simone was already in the kitchen making her green smoothie, completely at ease in what she thought was her domain. You're up early, she said without looking at me. Have you looked at apartments yet? Because I've been browsing and there's a lovely studio in Lakeview for only $900 a month. Very affordable. I won't be needing it, I said calmly. She turned confused. That's when the doorbell rang. The sheriff stood on our porch with 2 deputies and Janine beside them, immaculate in her power suit, holding a folder thick with documents. Can I help you? Simone's voice had gone sharp. I'm looking for Simone Matthews, Luke Williams, Brittany Matthews and Brandon Matthews, the sheriff said. I'm Simone Williams, she corrected automatically. What's this about? Oh, she'd taken his name. Of course she had. You're being served with eviction notices, the sheriff said, handing her the papers. You have 72 hours to vacate the premises. The smoothie blender fell from Simone's hand, splattering green liquid across the marble. Eviction? This is our house. Janine stepped forward. Actually, Mrs. Matthews, this house belongs to Miss Alea Williams. It has belonged to her since her mother's death 5 years ago. You've been residing here as her guest. She's now asking you to leave. That's impossible. My father came thundering down the stairs. What the hell is going on? The sheriff handed him papers too. Sir, you're also being served. My father's face went from confused to pale to bright red. Aya, what is this? Some kind of joke. No joke, Dad, I said, my voice steady despite my racing heart. The house is mine. It's been mine for 5 years. Mama left it to me through Grandma Dorothy's trust. That's ridiculous. Simone shrieked. Luke, tell them. You've owned this house for 30 years. Actually, Janine interrupted, Luke Williams has never owned this property. His first wife, Patricia Williams, inherited it from her mother Dorothy Richardson in 1990. When Patricia died, the property transferred to her only child Alea Williams, per the terms of the family trust. She opened her folder showing documentation. Property deeds. Trust documents. Tax records going back decades. My father sank onto the stairs. Patty never told me. Mama protected what was hers, I said. What Grandma Dorothy built. And I'm protecting it now. The twins came running down looking hungover and confused. What's happening? Who are these people? Your mother, I said, looking directly at Simone, tried to scam my father out of what she thought was his house. Except it's not his house. It's mine. And I want all of you out. Simone's face transformed. The sweet, concerned stepmother mask cracked completely. You little bitch. Your father married me. This house became community property. Illinois is not a community property state, Janine said calmly. And even if it were, you cannot claim rights to property that never belonged to your spouse. Miss Williams has been extraordinarily patient, allowing you to live here. That patience has ended. I'll fight this. Simone screamed. I'll get a lawyer. I'd reconsider, Janine said. Because we also have evidence that you've been forging checks from Mr. Williams's accounts. Several large withdrawals that he didn't authorize. My father's head snapped up. What checks? Janine pulled out bank statements. $15,000 here. $20,000 there. All signed in your name, Mr. Williams, but the handwriting analysis shows they were forged. And they all went to accounts belonging to Simone Matthews. She told me she needed money for her mother's medical bills. My father said, his voice breaking. I gave her permission. Verbal permission doesn't matter when she's signing your name, Dad, I said. That's fraud. Simone's face had gone from red to white. Luke, baby, I can explain. How much? He whispered. How much did you take? Approximately $78,000 over the past 18 months, Janine said. The twins had gone silent, backing away from their mother. Even they looked shocked. I loved you, my father said, and the brokenness in his voice almost made me regret everything. Almost. I grieved my wife with you. I trusted you. Oh, please. Simone finally dropped all pretense. You were so easy, Luke. So desperate for someone to fill Patricia's shoes. You think I actually wanted to live in this dusty old house with your mopey daughter? I was building a nest egg. This was always temporary. There was the truth finally out. My father stood up slowly. At that moment he looked ancient. Get out. With pleasure, Simone spat. But I'm taking half of everything. I don't care who owns what, I'll sue you both into oblivion. Actually, Janine smiled, given the fraud charges we're filing, you'll be lucky to avoid jail time. I'd suggest you leave quietly and be grateful Miss Williams isn't pressing additional charges. Simone looked at me, then really looked at me. You planned this. You sneaky little. I protected what's mine, I said. Just like Mama taught me. The next 3 days were chaos. Simone hired a lawyer who took one look at the documents and quit. She hired another who told her the same thing. She had no case. The twins, interestingly, turned on their mother almost immediately. Brandon came to me on day 2, scared and apologetic. I didn't know about the checks, he said. I swear, Alea. Mom told us your dad was loaded, that he owned all this. We thought. We were jerks, but we didn't know she was stealing. You knew she was planning to divorce him and take everything, I said coldly. I heard you outside the restaurant. He had the decency to look ashamed. Yeah. But we thought it was his money. I didn't know she was forging checks. That's criminal. Brittany was less apologetic but equally eager to distance herself from her mother. "We're moving back to our dad's in Indiana," she told me. "I'm sorry about how we treated you. For what it's worth." It was worth nothing, but I nodded. My father was the hardest part. He'd barely spoken since that morning. He'd been sleeping in the guest room, packing his things slowly like a man in a dream. On the third day, I found him in what used to be Mama's sewing room, sitting on the floor surrounded by boxes. "I found these in the closet," he said quietly. "Your mother's things. Simone must have hidden them. Photo albums. Mama's recipe book. Her wedding dress. All the things that had disappeared over the past 2 years." "Dad," I said, sitting beside him, "I didn't want it to come to this." "Didn't you?" He looked at me with hollow eyes. "Be honest, Aya. You've been planning this since she gave you that ultimatum." "No," I said truthfully. "I found out about the trust the day after. Before that, I was actually considering paying the rent." He laughed bitterly. "Rent? On your own house?" We sat in silence for a long moment. Finally, my father spoke. "Your mother tried to tell me about the trust once. After she got diagnosed. I told her I didn't want to hear about death and inheritance. I said we'd deal with it later." He picked up a photo of Mama on their wedding day. She looked radiant. "She was protecting me," I said softly. "And she was protecting you too, Dad. She knew you'd be vulnerable after she died. She knew someone might try to take advantage. She was right." His voice cracked. "God, Alea, I'm so sorry. I chose Simone over you. I let her disrespect your mother's memory. I was going to let her kick you out of your own home. You were lonely," I said, "and grieving. Simone knew that. She targeted you. That doesn't excuse what I did to you. You're my daughter. My baby girl. And I..." He couldn't finish. We both cried then, surrounded by Mama's things in the room where she taught me to sew and dream and build. "I don't want you to leave," I finally said. "This is your home too, Dad. Mama would want you here." He shook his head. "I can't stay. Every room reminds me of my failures. Of how I betrayed you both." "Where will you go?" "I've got a buddy in Atlanta. He's offered me a job, a fresh start. Maybe that's what I need. Time to figure out who I am without someone else defining it for me." It hurt, but I understood. "The door's always open," I said. "When you're ready." He pulled me into a hug, and for a moment he was my dad again. Not Simone's husband. Not a grieving widower. Just my dad. "I'm proud of you," he whispered. "Your mama would be too. You're stronger than both of us combined." Simone left on the third day with a U-Haul full of furniture that wasn't hers. I let her take it anyway. I was planning to redecorate the entire house. Out with the cold modern art, back with the warmth and life Mama had created. The twins left quietly, and honestly I felt sorry for them. They were products of their mother's toxicity, but they were also young enough to change. Dad left for Atlanta a week later. We had dinner the night before, just the two of us at Mama's favorite Thai place. "I closed my accounts," he said. "Open new ones. Simone won't get another dime." "Good. And I'm starting therapy. Real therapy, not some grief group where predators hunt for vulnerable people." "I'm glad, Dad." He reached across the table and took my hand. "I signed over power of attorney to you too. For health decisions, finances, all of it. Something happens to me, you're in control. No one else." "Dad. I mean it, Alea. I don't trust my own judgment anymore. But I trust you. You're the smart one. The strong one. Promise me you'll keep building what your grandmother started. What your mama protected." "I promise." The next morning I drove him to O'Hare. We didn't say much. Some goodbyes are too big for words. After he left, I stood in the empty mansion, my mansion, and felt the weight of 3 generations of strong Black women on my shoulders. Grandma Dorothy, who'd built an empire when Black women weren't supposed to own anything. Mama, who'd protected that legacy with her dying breath. And now me. I pulled out my phone and called my business partner, Jasmine. It's time. Let's take the boutique national. I'm ready. About damn time, she laughed. I've got investors lined up. I've got the capital, I said, smiling. Let's build something Mama would be proud of. The house looks different now. Mama's garden is replanted, roses and lavender just like she loved. Her photos are back on the walls mixed with new ones. Me at fashion shows. My boutique's grand opening. Dad smiling from Atlanta, healthier and happier than I'd seen him in years. He calls every Sunday. We're rebuilding slowly. Simone. Last I heard she was facing fraud charges in Indiana. Turns out my dad wasn't her first victim. The twins testified against her in exchange for immunity. Sometimes karma works fast. I'm hosting a party tonight. A launch party for my fashion line's expansion. 20 stores across 5 states with more coming. The mansion is full of people, laughter, life. The way Mama would have wanted it. My business partner Jasmine finds me on the terrace. Girl, you know Essence wants to do a feature on you. Young designer builds empire from grandmother's legacy. I smile. Set it up. As the party swirls inside, I stand in Mama's garden and look up at the stars. I think about that moment 6 months ago when Simone demanded $1,200 or I'd have to leave. She thought she was pushing me out. Instead, she pushed me into claiming what was always mine. Thanks, Mama, I whisper to the night. For protecting me. For believing in me. For teaching me that our legacy isn't just property and money. It's strength, resilience, and knowing our worth. The wind rustles through the roses and I swear I can hear her voice. That's my girl. Now go show them what Dorothy's granddaughter can do. I smile and walk back inside. I've got an empire to build.